Today I'm gonna talk about a very hot topic. Is Micro Four Thirds dead or not? Hi there, I'm Peter Forsgard, an Olympus visionary from Helsinki, Finland. And that's my disclaimer. When I talk about Micro Four Thirds and Olympus cameras, you have to remember that I am an Olympus visionary, so I have a very positive view on Olympus cameras, of course. But then also you have to remember that I've been shooting with Olympus cameras for 4 years. I've been only 2 years a visionary, so I picked Olympus before they picked me. And please consider subscribing to my channel and hit that bell so you get noticed when there's new video online. I post videos on every Tuesday and every Friday. My channel is all about you getting to be a better photographer. This video was not endorsed by Olympus, or neither did they say that I have to make this video. I wanted to make this video because I think it's an interesting matter to discuss. Tony Northrup made a video, or actually it was a podcast, but it was also a video in YouTube. And the topic was Micro Four Thirds is dead. And then Joseph Ellis, a wedding and portrait photographer from Dallas, Texas, who is a Olympus image maker, said in his video some comments about the video, and I'm commenting actually both of those videos, and I think it's very good for me also to address on those, because I know I have a lot of subscribers that are Olympus users and Micro Four Thirds users also. So I think it's a very important topic in my channel to a little bit discuss the future of Micro Four Thirds. The whole thing actually started when Panasonic announced that they are going full frame. They also said that Micro Four Thirds is going to be in their lineup. And Tony Northrup said in his video that Panasonic will drop Micro Four Thirds in a few years. And he had a very good reason to say so. He says that the Panasonic S1 full frame lineup is totally new, so they have to put a lot of R&D money into that system, which makes sense. And then they also have to have some R&D in the Micro Four Thirds world, so to keep making better Micro Four Thirds cameras, they need to R&D theirs also. So they have to split the cost of R&D. And he explains, of course, the cost of R&D has to come back in sales. And if, let's say that Micro Four Thirds is not selling, why would they invest money on R&D on things that doesn't sell? But then I want to ask a question. Why does he assume that the full frame is the one that it will survive in Panasonic? I think that's a reasonable question. There are no really good lenses, or actually there are very good lenses, but not too many, and very expensive Leica lenses. And of course, what makes it easier for Panasonic is the fact that Sigma and Leica are with them in the new L-mount system cameras that are going to be on the market for Panasonic. And also Sigma has said that they might be making a full frame camera. But then my question is, who is going to invest in a system that does not have too many lenses yet? There are a lot of people that have Canons, they have Nikons and Sony cameras. Most likely if you have a Canon or Nikon DSLR, if you still want to stay in full frame, you're going to pick up the EOS R or the Nikon Z series cameras. I don't think there's going to be a massive movement to Panasonic. So I think Panasonic with their full frame, that's the bigger risk, just because they don't have that many lenses yet. And who says that the S1 or the S1R cameras are going to be really good? Most likely they are, but we don't know because the camera does not exist yet. But it's going to take a lot of money for Panasonic when they're investing in a new system. And if it does not start selling, they might ditch that. Who knows? They were talk about smartphones, and that's one reason that compact cameras is kind of like non-existing anymore. Of course there are some specialty compact cameras like super zoom cameras, and then there are these like the Olympus Tough series where they have this waterproof, splash proof, and you can throw them around kind of cameras, which are really good. And that's, of course, those things are going to change because the mobile phone is not an action camera. But my prediction about smartphones is that they are going to kill the entry-level system cameras. And it's going to affect the DSLR market and the mirrorless market because of the new computational imaging that most new phones have. What's the biggest reason for people taking photographs these days? Sharing it in social media. And which device would you use if you want to share all the time your images to social media? Well, the smartphone, of course. And Joseph Ellis in his video said that he does not believe that it's going to affect that much the entry-level cameras because people still need long lenses when they want to make images of their kids doing sports. Yeah, there's a point, but I do not think that there are so many people that want to buy a DSLR because they want to make images of their kids playing sports. That would make some camera manufacturer so profitable just on that niche. I don't think so. And then there's the third thing that was in Tony Northrup's podcast/video. He had an example of 600mm Nikon lens. It was f4, and then the Olympus M-Zuiko 300 f4 Pro lens. And he said that of course the size of the 600mm f4 lens for full frame is huge compared to the 300mm f4 lens. And if you compare the lenses, and if you compare the price of the lenses, the Nikon lens costs about, as Tony said, I haven't checked it out on online, but I believe what Tony says, it's $13,000. And you can get the Olympus 300 f4 M-Zuiko lens for, let's say, it's less than 3,000. I think it's 2,700 now, around that anyways. But it's a lot less. You can get 3 of those in price of 1 of the Nikon lenses. And I believe when Tony said that the image quality is better with the full frame and with the 600mm f4 Nikon lens. I don't doubt that. I believe that. But is it so much better that you justify the huge amount of money? Let's say there's about a $10,000 difference. Are your pictures gonna sell so much higher price if you shoot with the Nikon or the Olympus system? I don't believe so. As he said about the R&D things, that you have to justify the R&D costs and you have to sell cameras to make up the R&D cost. And exactly the same thing with when you're doing photographic business. If you're selling bird photographs, are your pictures so much better? Is the client going to pay so much more money that you can justify the $10,000 difference? And when we consider that the 300 f4 has a image stabilizer with the EM1 Mark II, you have 6 stops of stabilizing versus the Nikon's, which is a little less. To be honest, I don't know what it is, but I know it's not 6 stops anyways. And then there is the talk about the depth of field. Always on these questions about depth of field, you assume that you want your depth of field to be as narrow as possible. But what if you need more depth of field? With the f4 600mm, you have a subject that's 10 meters away. Your depth of field is about 7 centimeters. With the 300mm f4 and a mirrorless micro four thirds body, the depth of field in 10 meters is around 14 centimeters. So it's about a double, which makes sense. In this case, is the 7 centimeters worth that $10,000? I know that this is just a small example and just a small niche example, but so is Tony's example of 600mm anyways. So, but that's why I'm addressing exactly that. What if you need some more depth of field with your full frame camera? You have to get that 14 centimeters at the same situation. You have the subject 10 meters and you have the 600mm f4. You have to stop it down to f8 to get 13 centimeters. And there you lose 2 stops of light. So you have to either get a longer shutter speed or boost up the ISO. And if you boost up the ISO, in Tony's word, you have the same image quality anyways. But look at the price. You get the same quality with $6,000 or $5 to $6,000 versus $16,000 when you have the body with, because you need the body also. So it's not that simple. And to me, as I said in the beginning, I've done my images for 4 years with micro four thirds camera, with an Olympus camera. And not once have someone asked me what camera do I use, or paid me less because I have a smaller camera or a smaller sensor. No, never. And that's what I'm saying. That is the image quality so much better that you justify the higher price. And then when it comes to the size of the lenses, like Tony said in his video, that like now I'm filming this with 25mm f1.2, which is equivalent in the sense of depth of field and the field of view. I mean, the field of view is a 50mm 2.4 in a full frame, which some consider not so fast lens. But if there is a 50mm 2.4 lens for full frame, would it be as good as this lens that I'm using now, 25mm f1.2? And would it be weather sealed, and would it be dust proof? I doubt that. I don't think it will, because that would be a low-end lens for full frame. There will be 1.4, 1.2 lenses that are pro grade, like my Olympus 25mm f1.4 lens is. So it's not equivalent, it is smaller because of the pro grade that I have in my lens. The same size for full frame would not be a pro lens, so you would lose image quality, so it's not the same thing. And because the f-stop is 1.2 and 2.4, I have a different exposure, faster shutter speeds, lower ISO. You can boost up the ISO, of course, on the full frame, but then of course you get more noise also in the full frame and you lose some image quality, so the gap gets smaller. I don't think that micro four thirds is going to die, but of course if Olympus is going to be the only one who's making micro four thirds cameras, is going to survive, it needs of course to do a lot of R&D, like they have so far. They got very, very unique and good features in their cameras. One is that they have the live composite, which is very unique, pro capture 60 frames per second. So but they really need to keep up their R&D and make great cameras and great lenses, and that's the way they will survive, because at least so far there has been quite a lot of professional photographers who has come from the full frame to micro four thirds. Also I guess in Palomar, but I know in Olympus anyways. And if that thing keeps on going, and I don't see any reasons why not, then there's no problem with the micro four thirds. But as I said, they need to keep their R&D really high quality and make really great cameras. But as Tony said, and as I am saying, and probably Joseph agrees with me too, that we do not know what happens in 10 years. 10 years ago, Nokia from Finland was a powerhouse making mobile phones. Then came Apple, and what happened to Nokia? They're doing something else. They're still doing great, but they're doing something else. There aren't very many Nokia phones around anymore. So we never know which ones will survive. But hey, this was my 2 cents on this matter, and thanks for watching. Bye for now.